thank you very much. We'll move on to item,
Just for clarity, where do we go from here? Do we need to
well, that's why I
discuss
was
this further?
asking if there was a meeting date scheduled or anything, so the people who have been identified can go ahead and select their,
Would you like me to go ahead and
if you're going to be
set
the
a-
liaison, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay. Anything else? All right,
Yeah,
we're
I
going to
don't know,
go,
are you trying to move to 8.01?
no, 7:17.
Oh, good, because I think that's going to be my motion when you get ready. When you get ready.
Okay. 7:17. 7:17 is the reconsideration of the April 10th motion to table Camelot for 3 months and establish a citizen advisory group.
Well,
Mr. Myers?
I'd actually like to make the motion that I wanted to, I asked to bring
Are
a
you
motion,
saying
and I'm
I
going to like to
break
make
the
the
motion?
motion. I'm sorry?
Are you saying I'll make the motion?
No, I'm saying I've got a motion ready, and what was put into the minutes was a placeholder that doesn't reflect what I have, what my motion is. My motion doesn't even use, well, I guess it does use the word Camelot, but can I just read my motion?
Well, we have 7.17. If you want to substitute it or do something else.
No, I asked for permission because Fife Whiteside was here and I had to ask him how to do it because I didn't know that I was going to make a motion. So Karen, I asked Karen to put me on the.
Bring back, to reconsider.
Okay, words are important and those aren't my words. And I'm a board member and I'm about to make a motion.
Well,
Okay? You can't make a motion. Nobody's made a motion. I'd like to make the motion. All right?
I think that, as I understand it, a request was made to have an item on the agenda to reconsider the board vote, and that's been done here.
It has not been done.
Well, that's 7.17. I understand that you want to speak to it, and that's fine.
No, it's
but what-
not. You misunderstand, sir.
Okay.
I have a motion. I'm a board member. I'm making my motion. And if I have to sit here till 3 o'clock in the morning, it's going to happen. No, that's not, that's a placeholder, Naomi. That's all that is. Could I make my motion, Madam Chairman? There's nothing on, that nobody has made any motion. They're trying to change the subject, just like they do on stuff that they don't like. I have a motion, and we have people who want to vote on that motion. Okay? When we're going to
Well,
hear this motion.
Well, hold on, because what I understood, and everybody else was here, what I understood was that someone from the prevailing vote from the April 10th meeting wanted to bring back an item for reconsideration. And that's what this
And that
is.
is exactly what I'm trying to do. If you will give me the floor, I have a motion to make. It's not your motion. It's not Greg's motion.
How is it different from what's on the agenda? That's why
Well, how's it different? You hadn't even heard it. Won't you give me the floor and listen to it? I have a motion to make.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I move to reconsider the action taken at the April regular meeting with respect to whether or not to table the vote on Camelot. It's that simple. Hold on, I'm not giving up the floor. So this is how this works. If I get a second, we have a vote on that, and then we go back to the original question on Camelot. And that's how it works. So I have a motion on the floor, Madam Chair.
Sounds like the same one, so go ahead. So you're making a motion, is there a second for, is there a
Second.
second? Or is there a second? Any other questions or discussion before we take a vote?
So Naomi just asked, she didn't have it on her microphone. This is to reconsider the board's action
To table,
of tabling the Camelot issue at the April regular meeting. That's what this is about.
Madam Chair, was the original action to table Camelot for 3 months and establish a citizens advisory group? Was
That's
that the
exactly-
motion?
that is correct.
Was that the action the board took?
that's correct.
Thank you.
And so right now, this item, Mr. Myers' motion, is to to take the April 10th motion from Ms. Chambers to table it and put this Camelot issue back on the table. If you want to do that, it's our opportunity to vote. If you want to finish out the 3 months, then that's not what you want to do. Are we ready to vote? Any other questions?
I plan on voting against this motion because I think that in our action on April 10th, I think that we told this community that we were going to give them 3 months to weigh in, to study the issue, and to work together to come back with recommendations. And I think that because we told the board, told the community we were going to do that, and based on what Kia has done in the last week, which is pretty darn good, then I'm going to vote against it.
Any other questions?
Yes, a week ago, Kathy Williams and the chair were both in favor of us reconsidering this motion. And by the way, Kia's committee is still set up. We can take that up next if the board wants to take it. We are going to hear from the citizens. Last week, it was all about what the citizens want, and this is a backdoor way to try to snuff out this false idea that some of these board members care what the citizens think. And don't fall for it. There's a motion, there's a second, and I would ask the chair to call the question.
Okay, and also, let's be clear.
Let me be clear on that. It takes 2/3 of the board to vote to close debate. So in absence of 2/3, that's not appropriate.
Thank you, and I have the floor and something
Explain
to
that
say.
one more time, Greg.
Mr. Myers wanted to end debate and call for the question. That takes a second and 2/3 of the
Okay,
vote.
so unless the chair agrees, you're saying that's what needs to happen, Greg?
No, I'm saying that if you want to close debate, you have to get a second and 2/3.
Okay, I'm not asking to close debate. Just debate on,
I thought
friends.
you said you called the question.
I asked the chair to call the question, and you interjected, so I withdraw that request. Take your time, people.
Let's just also be clear on, there was no consensus taken. A board member requested that, from the prevailing side, is the only one who could request an item be brought back. And, you know, I don't have a problem with the board member putting anything on the agenda. Are we prepared to vote? Vote now.
Hold on, what are we voting on?
Are you serious?
Yeah,
We're now voting on your motion to reconsider, standing alone. That is whether or not you're going to take things back to where they were on April 10th.
thank you.
So
That's
this
what I
is-
was just making sure.
This is not on whether you approve or disapprove of Camelot. This is whether or
John.
not you take that back off the question
Thank you.
and roll the clock back to
Gotcha.
April 10th.
Thank you.
That passes. Okay, so,
And now, Madam Chair, I would ask that the question be called on Camelot again, as it was before.
Again, where we are now is right back where we were on April 10th when Ms. Chambers made her motion to table it to a time certain and to appoint the Citizens Advisory Committee. So at this point, to close debate, it would require a second and 2/3 of the board to vote in favor of closing debate. Otherwise, the floor is open for debate.
Now, all
On the
this,
underlying motion about the Camelot contracts, of which there were 3 on the agenda.
Greg, I'm sorry. I'm confused.
Okay.
I am too. There's not a motion on the table, right? Okay, so,
Well, the motion to reconsider makes us go back to April 10th, where we were when Ms. Chambers made her motion to table it 3 months and appoint the Citizens Advisory Committee. So where we are now is the 3 Camelot contracts are on the table to be considered.
you know, I don't even know where to start. First of all, this was not presented as 3 Camelot contracts. This was presented as a package deal that we are to vote on. And as nicely as I can say this, respectfully disagree with Mr. Ellington's take that we're in some place like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. Where we really are right now is ready to vote on Camelot. And, you know, this is the same crowd, folks, that didn't allow us to vote on chairman of the board. 4 of us were not allowed to vote. This is the crowd, no bid lawyers. We didn't even get a chance to vote on the lawyers this year. And this is the kind of advice we're getting. No bid, $165 an hour lawyers. I'm asking now to call the question on Camelot. Let's vote it up or down. That's what everybody wanted to do last
minute.
week. Hold on. I understand that some people have had a change of heart, but this issue needs to be done with, aside from being ripe from a parliamentary standpoint. The idea that we need to wait longer for some odd reason is ridiculous. This is an albatross around our necks. Let's have the vote up or down, and if it, you know, and let's move, and then let's get to work on Kia's committee, and let's try to find some solutions.
Okay, now, like I said a few minutes ago, when a board member makes a request, we're going to honor it. Ms. Williams requested last Monday that when this item does come back, that we vote on it separately. She chose to make a request to vote separately.
She doesn't have that power.
Contracts.
She doesn't have that
Quiet a
power.
minute.
She
To clarify, I asked the superintendent to see if that was possible.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and I got news for you. It's not, because we didn't vote on it as 3 separate contracts. Y'all apparently think you're going to get one of these contracts passed, and the public is screaming at you saying, we don't want any of this, start over. And I don't know what parts you don't get.
But it's important to listen to everyone in the public. It's important to listen to our employees. It's important to listen to parents who have students that would be eligible for this program. And it's important to listen to the parents who are in the classroom with students with behavior disorders. So you don't want to just listen to one group or segment of the community. We want to listen to everyone, and we want to listen to every board member when we're up here. And so when a board member makes a request or have a question or concern or issue, we're going to all listen to it. We don't have to agree.
We've listened to
but
it.
we're going to listen, and you're going to stop and, you know, cutting people off when we're talking.
Well, you're going to
Let
say that to
every
Ms. Williams?
person
You're going to say that to
have
Ms.
the
Williams?
floor. I'm saying it to you.
Well,
Mr.
we'll say it to
Myers.
her too. Everybody gets treated the same. See, that hadn't been
You're
going on.
absolutely correct. And
Well-
right now, I have the floor. Thank you very much.
You do. You're
And
the
we
chair.
need- And we need to make sure that we remain professional and respectful of one another. Are there any other questions or concerns?
To address Ms. Williams' question, we can do individual contracts. It will come at a different cost because, again, the economy of scale of having all 3 programs together, which is part of the original recommendation, is what made it affordable and cost-effective.
So if we were to break it up into 3 contracts, do we have those costs tonight in order to
We
be
have
able
them
to-
for 2 of the contracts, but not for the 3rd one, and those are all still being massaged because of the differences in administrative and therapeutic services and different aspects of them. So I can't give you those tonight as far as definitive. I can give you ballpark, and that's about the best I can do at this point in time.
On 2 of the 3?
2 of the 3.
So if we were, I mean, we couldn't leave ourselves vulnerable to not knowing.
Right.
So could we vote, and this is maybe a parliamentarian question, I don't know, but can we vote on 2? Can we, like I said last week, trifurcate it? And then, excuse me, I think I'm at the board table asking a question. Can we do that?
When you look at the April 10th agenda, item 3.03, the Camelot Education Proposal, they're set out for y'all to consider as 3 different contracts. Now, so you can consider them as 3 different contracts and vote each contract up or down. Now, what I heard was Dr. Lewis indicate some uncertainty as to the cost of the contracts independently. And I think you would need to know that in order to vote on those contracts independently.
I just want to add something for clarity in my own mind. When we came in April the 10th, it was the understanding, I believe, of every board member that we were voting on this as a package deal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I want to do this decently and in order. I try to always be open-minded, but we did say, I even asked the question, I made the statement that there were some good parts to the therapeutic day school. I was told that we could not, because it was not cost-effective, and we could not split up the contracts. So in all fairness, and in us keeping our word, integrity, doing what we said we were gonna do, it was our intention on April the 10th to vote on this as a package deal. Now, if a piece comes back later on, that's totally different. But I don't think we need to say that we thought we were voting on this in 3 different parts on April the 10th, because we didn't. We knew we were voting on it as a package deal, or that was my.
That's right. And you're, please, y'all, let us have our meeting. You're absolutely right, because it was built, predicated on that one campus, and that's why the cost was for all 3 programs at the same time. You're exactly right.
At a later date,
That was my understanding.
can we bring it back?
Okay, I was
You
told
have
the
your
same
line on?
exact thing that Kia was told, because I asked if we could break it up, because some parts I did like and some parts that I didn't, but I was told that it was all or
It was one
nothing.
package.
The point being is it's cost
brought
effective.
as one
And
package.
we, believe it or not, we are trying to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And in order to do that, you have to look at the economy of scale. To break things up, it can be done, but again, it becomes cost prohibitive, and much more so for us to do it internally, for all the reasons I mentioned before and talked about in terms of board work sessions and so on. So that's why we had to look at it from the standpoint of looking at all 3 for being the most cost-effective, efficient way of delivering the services. Can they be broken up? They certainly could be, but it's going to be cost prohibitive from the standpoint of what I think we can afford at this point in time, and certainly more if we tried to do the same comprehensive service. I shared with you, if you recall, to do just the Excel program, which was the cheapest of the 3 programs. If you recall, for us to do it was a minimum of $250,000 more, just for that one program.
Yeah, I understand that, but, you know, when I asked, it was like, no, this is a package deal.
For the reason I mentioned, yes.
Go ahead.
Assume it depends on how the motion's made then. But we're
Yeah, we'll see.
hearing from everybody that the desire of the board.
To have
Yeah,
additional
okay.
information
And that's good.
about them being
That was-
separate, is that, Ms. Buckner?
Oh, I was just saying, the presentation, if we go back to the original presentation, and it was my understanding that it was also a package deal at that time.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This was presented to us as a package deal, 1 vote on 3 contracts at one time. These attempts to go back and try and rewrite history is disproven by the way the agenda was presented at that time. If we want to, we have Kia's committee in place. If we want to reconsider one part of these 3 contracts, we have the capability of doing that. We should go ahead and vote on this Camelot package. That's what we had the long discussion about last week. There were a number of people on this board that said, yes, let's vote on it. And now this week they're singing a different tune. I don't know why, but I think we should go ahead and vote on the total package 3 contracts, just like we were intending to do on April the 10th.
I do want clarity on something, because I believe I asked the question, and I was told that if we vote down Camelot, that they cannot resubmit. Is that true or false?
It was my understanding, unless one of the people who vote the other way, they can bring it back. Let's say if he votes no, and then he can bring it back. If the no people.
Let me help you. That's already been brought back. That's the point. It's back to where it needs to be. What we're due to do now, you've had a 5-4 vote.
That's not my question. My question is,
Okay.
if tonight it gets voted down, when this action committee gets together and puts together different options, can they still review Camelot as one of their options?
They can do anything they want to. It's their committee.
I asked that question, and I was told that if it was voted down, they couldn't come back, so I just
No,
want
I don't
clarity.
think anybody's saying that. I think all options are open, but I think what we're all looking for is solutions, though, Lori. I mean, you know,
But Greg, won't one of those people who voted no, won't they have to bring it back?
If you take a vote on it and it does not pass, that
It's
is,
held.
it doesn't get the requisite 5 votes to pass, then one of the people who voted it down, or on the prevailing side, has the opportunity to make a motion to reconsider the vote. So,
Are all minds clear? Still got questions? Is there any other discussion, or what do we, is there a motion?
I'm sorry, hold on. I couldn't hear you.
She was asking you, is there a motion?
Oh, yeah, there's absolutely a motion just back where we were to consider Camelot in full, just as it was on the, what, April the 10th meeting? Is that right, y'all? Yeah, a yes or no vote on Camelot. And then hopefully if it's a, whatever it is, we're going to move forward either way. But hopefully this gives us a sense of a mission and some clarity. We always want to clarify things. But so yes, there's a motion.
Second.
What is the motion?
Well, the motion is the original motion that was made on on April the 10th, which is whether or not to approve the superintendent's recommendation on 3 Camelot education contracts at the total cost of $6.4 million and change.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or any discussion, Ms. Williams?
All right, so if I understand the motion correctly, the motion is to approve the superintendent's recommendation for the 3 contracts proposed by Camelot for
April
the
2nd,
3
April 10th.
programs.
On April 10th.
Okay, so I want to speak to why I am supporting the administration's recommendation to implement the Camelot programs for our troubled students through Excel, a transitional, and the EBD programs. My support has been an evolution. I trust our administration, and although I appreciate that what appears to have been an exhaustive research that they performed before bringing the recommendation forward, I wanted to do my own research, and so I did. I have spoken to and read dozens of comments from educators, counselors, and psychologists currently in the Camelot system and retired from the Camelot system. The common thread was that this is an effective system that works and is dedicated to ensuring the success of every student. I have talked to our teachers, principals, and counselors. I have heard their pleas for assistance to find something that works. I have read the positive and the negative, and I have visited all 3 programs in Chicago and have just gotten back from visiting the school in Pensacola. I talked with the students at all 4 properties in all grades and came away very impressed with what I heard and saw. I support this recommendation because I believe it is the best program for our district. I ran for the school board on a platform of representing all our children, the academic, athletic, artistic, and autistic. I see this program support as a natural progression towards that end. All our children are precious. All our teachers and staff are worthy of our support and our respect. This program will not only benefit those who are vulnerable to falling through the cracks of our traditional public school model, it will benefit those children who thrive in the traditional public school model. I appreciate the transitional school that we have had in place for dozens of years, but I've been around long enough to know that its success or failure is dependent on the leadership in place. Camelot, in my opinion, brings a culture that transcends individual personalities. It depends on the passion of every adult in the school and their ability to trust every student enough to allow them to become leaders. We have too much at risk here. We have a great district. My vote of support of this recommendation is a vote to support all within our district. I believe that this program is the best for our children, our staff, and our taxpayers. My vote is a support vote because I believe that this program is the missing piece to ensuring that Muskogee County School District is a district that believes and invests in all our children, the academic, athletic, artistic, autistic, and troubled, all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
No, not a question. I just want to add something because I agree with quite a few things that you said. I do think this is a very important vote. And I do think we need to watch out for all of our students. Where I disagree is that this program is the best for all our students. As I said before, there are some great parts of the program. We even had someone from the public speak to it, and everyone who has talked about the program and the highlights of it, it all points back to one of those contracts. It is the other students that is the majority of the contract that I am not sure that this is what's key for them. Therapeutic, I understand. I understand we have got to do something. I understand that there are some things that go outside of the classroom and the ability of a regular classroom teacher to handle. I get that. But you are grouping 3 separate groups of students who need 3 totally different things, and I just am not convinced that this totality is what is best for all students, and we do have to look for all students. So I am not opposed. The reason why I wanted public input is because we can take our time and make sure we do this right. I've heard feedback. Well, if this doesn't work, y'all can cancel the contract after a year. We will have spent multiple millions of dollars by then. If we take the time to listen to the feedback of the public, if we take the time to relook at these contracts, if we take the time, and then perhaps if you bring something a little different back, I'm not saying that I will be on board, I'm just saying I cannot support this because I don't believe that it is what's right for all the students involved. So that is my position.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Mr. Myers?
You're going to love this. I think it's all been said.
All right. Mr. Cantrell?
I just want to take the time and say thank you to all the folks who have called me, sent me text messages, probably over 100 people this week on both sides of the table, on voting for it and voting against it right there. And I just want to clarify, if we vote for this tonight, as long as one of the 5 can bring it back with the superintendent checking to see what it would cost for us to have individually what they would run as far as at a later date right there. It could be out of price, but it might not be, but at least we would know this.
That's correct. Anyone on the prevailing side can bring back an item for reconsideration, which is what we've done here tonight. All right, Ms. Jackson?
Okay,
Ms. Williams, your light's on. You have a question as well?
Apologize.
over the past several weeks, there's been, a lot said about the future of the Muskogee County School District Alternative School and Therapeutic Program. I have listened to presentation and reports about Camelot. I've listened to members' debate. I looked at Camelot closely. I I have researched with the assistance of parents and stakeholders, and from everything that I've seen, it appeared to be a good program. Camelot appears to have a lot of the resources and service that could be useful to a school district in need. I have to admit that Camelot impressed me as being almost as good as a program that we currently have, which is AIM and Woodhoff. In my research, a reoccurring question, kept, coming to me, what is wrong with what we have now? And my response is, I don't have the answer to that question. I do not recall anyone ever outlining what is broken with the current programs that we're having now. So I decided to do my own investigation. First of all, until the last couple of weeks, I was very disappointed to learn that no one, including myself, has even visited the program or talked to the people in leadership. And to this date, only 4 board members have spoken to or visited the campus of AIM and Woodhouse program. After speaking with Mr. Griffin and Ms. Thornton, I learned that while we're not perfect, Muskogee County is mostly, we're certainly meeting the special need of our students at AIM and at Woodhouse. Woodhouse has some of the, Woodhouse. They have some of the most trained and prepared teachers in the state. And they are receiving instructional and professional service from professionals who are among the state best in hours in training and readiness. I also received evidence from a parent of a student, that's there. She said that this program works. She even gave me evidence, and it's really detailed, so if any of the board members wants to see this, you can. When I went in there, I asked to see, the classroom. So I went through the classrooms to just observe and everything. And while I was in there, one of the kids wrote me a letter. She wrote a note. I was really scared to read what was on that letter. I didn't know if she was cussing me out or she's saying, help me. But when I received the letter, it read, Happy Mother's Day. I was really impressed with that. Also, I met a student there. He's been there for 2 years. When he first got there, he was reading on 1st grade level. Now he's reading on 7th grade level. So I was really impressed with that. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, do we still have a contract where we will still be utilizing this program through the 2017-18 school year?
GNETs?
Yes.
Yes, now we are. Yes, that was the reason we were looking at the time frame.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And as far as the AIM program, which I didn't, get a chance to visit, but I did do some investigation and I did do some research and all that on there. And I learned that, he has a high retention of the staff, and that AIM program is among the highest graduation for the alternative school in the state. For alternative schools?
We don't graduate from AIM.
Well, I'm talking about sending the students back to their home schools. Well, no, some of them have different times now. Because some are sent for like 45 days, some are sent for 90 days or whatever. But once they go back, their kids are graduating. The ones that have utilized AIM, yes. And I stand to be corrected. We could ask Mr. Griffin to come and speak on that.
Well, Mr. Blackwell is his immediate supervisor of the school.
Let me,
So I'm
All
doing
right, but go
something.
ahead, Ms. Jackson, are you finished, or you got some more?
And in addition to that, I learned that, you know, they meet the students where they are. They offer the clothes, they offer school supplies, and things that the parents, things that the kids need. So, you know, I just think that, you know, there's no argument, you know, against our current system and the service that they provide. There's no justification to replace a system that is working for our children. And I feel that it would be I feel that it would be careless and irresponsible to change the system that is working for our kids. Now, like I said, Kathy, that's your opinion. You know, I also talk to my constituents. I talk to parents at AIM. I talk to parents at Woodall, and, you know,
Now,
that's just what I got.
I want
I want to say
add
just
to-
one thing, because, and just for Vanessa, while Woodall may not be a high school program, kids do return to schools.
Yes, they do.
Sometimes and they do graduate. Sometimes they graduate, sometimes they don't. So they do return to their main schools, and they can graduate. They're there for a period of time, and then they go back to their home schools, and whatever happens after that happens. I want to speak to one thing in terms of my vote tonight, which will be in the affirmative for the superintendent. When I initially hear something like Camelot, I resisted that from the beginning because it's not something typically that I would go for. We had the, you know, in my mind, you have, I was thinking why we couldn't do it. And there's association with something being private, and there were a lot of issues that I felt like I could not go along with it. So I asked a lot of questions, and my bottom line was that the superintendent said that we needed something, and we couldn't do it efficiently at the cost that the Camelot was doing it for. And so I had to bottom line my decision, which I made according to his recommendation, in that I had to actually trust the superintendent to do the right thing. In terms of Camelot, once I found out, I did the research, once I found out that Camelot, all those issues that they had, I tried to go with that and try to research and make sure that those issues I wasn't relying on him totally, because I want to make sure that Camelot was not a place that was going to abuse our kids. And I want to make sure that we weren't throwing our kids away, that they were still our kids, they still got our diplomas, we still would have our hands on them. But the main thing for me was I was relying on his recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any more comments?
Oh, yes, I'd like a chance to speak. And
Ms.
I'm
Jackson.
sorry if I'm reiterating some things that have already been heard.
Ms. Jackson, your mic's on.
One, I think, important point to point out is that we are not trying to necessarily replace, we are trying to expand these services. And in order to expand these services, to pick up more children in the therapeutic day school than what we are currently serving in GNETs, we need a new provider. To implement the Excel Academy for the overaged, undercredited, we need a program. And in order to offer all of these programs, we need an economies of scale. We need a provider that can do all of these things and can share the cost of therapists and teachers and some of the specialty services that they need. I have struggled with this decision. I have asked questions, gathered information and opinions. I have spoken to others in our district administration as well as to teachers. I have reached out to a member of the Board of Education in Savannah, as well as people serving youth in Bibb County. I have weighed the pros and cons of Camelot and our other options. I have followed the debate on social media, which is quite interesting. What I saw there was how much of the opposition is based on misinformation. For example, the administration has repeatedly said that the test scores of the students in the Camelot programs would come back to their home schools. Yet I read again last night somebody saying that it should not be approved because this is an attempt to move struggling students out of schools in order to improve school testing scores. That is not true, and that is not a valid argument against Camelot. Again, I have looked at the true information, and I have brought to it the view of a parent with children in schools that are affected by the students with behavioral issues. Only a few of us on the board have that perspective. I'm not talking about my daughter that's at Columbus High. This is not the issue at Columbus High. I am talking about the behavior issues I am hearing about and seeing because I'm at these schools and I am talking to the teachers there. That I am seeing at the elementary school where my youngest two children attend, at the middle school that my third child plans to attend in the next year. And I'll be very open. I tried the same middle school 2 years ago with my second child and pulled her out because of the behavior and discipline issues that I saw at the school. And I want to give it another chance, but again, I have these concerns. So please hear me when I say that this decision affects more than the students who would attend the Camelot programs. It is affecting the teachers who are trying to teach children with behavior issues that they are not trained to address. And it affects the other students whose safety is at risk and whose education is being disrupted. And how can we help the children with the next level of behavior and learning issues, the intermediate level is what I was calling it, when so much of our attention and resources are being pulled to serve or really just to maintain the children with the severe behavioral issues? And how will these children improve without the resources and staff to give them the therapeutic services they need? So everyone keeps talking about how a majority of the people are against Camelot. That is not the case for the teachers, administrators, and people with whom I talk. They see the need for these programs and a group like Camelot to provide these services. That is why I'm supporting the superintendent's recommendation. And I will say that if it's voted down, I sincerely hope that I am proven wrong. But what I fear is going to happen is that we will be sitting here again in a year or two with no improvement in the area of alternative education. And it's the students and teachers who will have suffered.
Thank you, Ms. McRae, and well said. I share those
May I?
thoughts. Any other comments? Are we ready to vote now? All minds are clear?
May I make a comment before you do,
Oh,
Madam Chair?
Mr. Blackwell, yes, sir.
I'm sorry. It was brought up early, and I'm sitting here, and I do wish that it comes out correctly. But I just wanted you to understand, if I took them one at a time and look at the different schools, I want you to understand that I do have some experience in leading schools, if you will, that I considered at one time to be at risk. So I've been in that scenario. Just to give you some ideas of where I'm coming from, I'm also the hearing officer along with Mr. DeBose. So a lot of the kids that are sent to the AM Center, if you will, or the transitional school, of course, will come through my division. So we look at the records and we understand. So we also understand their records, their behavior records, and we also know when those kids come back through us, because when the principal at AM Wright would like to refer them for an infraction that's greater than 10 days, they have to send them back to us. So we do understand that. And we do understand those kids who go back to the school as well. So we have a feel for that. And I've been in this position now for 6 years. I was at Marshall for 4.5 years. So I wanted you to kind of understand that. I'm also the division that looks at those particular kids who are overage and unaccredited, because we have to put them into a school. We have to put those kids into a school, and we understand what their grades are like, and we also understand their ages and a little bit about their background. I'm also understand what GNETs and what all is about, because it's part of my program of exceptional ed. And by no means am I saying that these leaders, right, in these particular facilities, right, or subpar, if you will, but as far as the framework that Camelot offers, and I'm totally behind Camelot, the framework that they offer, the program, right, deals with the relationship piece, right, and it's in totality. So everyone in the building and they have been trained to do so, deal with kids, and it takes time to change behavior because people change behavior, and it's more than just a 45-day setting, come and go. A lot of time we deal with reacting, we're reactive and we're not proactive. That's not preventive. And Camelot has a system in place that they've been dealing with now for 11 years where they prevent certain things from happening so these kids are not suspended. They are not suspended. And Ms. McRae indicated also that we're not just talking about those kids who are there. We're talking about the ones that will eventually get there, and oh, by the way, the ones that will come back. And don't forget the transitional piece. So we do not have an it. We do not have a framework. We're not trained to deal with certain pieces that Camelot is. And we do want to specialize, and we do want to take care of these kids because these kids are deserving of this service, and this district would not be willing to make a sacrifice in this quantity unless we truly cared for children, and that means all kids. We do not have an it. Camelot has the framework we need to educate this population.
Thank you, Mr. Blackwell, and I do want to express my sincere gratitude for all of the hard work that you all have put into this. You've done your due diligence to do all the research. You know what the district needs, and it's your job to make the recommendations that will be in the best interest of our students and to present the information to us and to answer all of our questions. And I feel like for as long as this has gone on, hopefully, surely there is no one who still has a question that you weren't able to answer if they brought the question forward. I appreciate the superintendent. I do believe that you made this recommendation with the best interest of all students in mind, and I appreciate that. So surely now we're ready to take a vote. All right, begin voting, please. For the original. You got to vote by hand. Okay. We're voting on the superintendent's recommendation to bring Camelot Educational Services to support Therapeutic Day, the Transitional Discipline School, and the Excel program. All in favor of the superintendent's recommendation, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. That's 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that fails. Okay? Now, we're going to move on to our consent agenda, and we did discuss at great length last week. You had a question, Ms. Buckner?
Yeah. And once again, it's about the personnel support.
What's that?
It's about the personnel support.
Personnel support. Report.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The professionals. I was just looking at, I know we have a lot of retirements in May and June. I was just wondering, we have a lot
That's
of
8.02.
resignations. Is there any, did a lot of these people just, is there any particular reason that we have so many resignations?
We'll continue to collate all the data. The majority are relocation. Right now,
Relocation?
the largest reason.
Okay.
The question was, is there any explanation why there are so many resignations on the personnel report? And Ms. Tesson, your answer was?
Right now, it looks the majority reason is relocation. But we'll collate some of that data as we get exit interviews.
Thank you. Anything else? Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I'd like to ask that we consider item 8.14 separately.
8.14 we'll vote on separately. That is donations. And we do want to say thank you to all of our donors in our public-private partnership. So all in favor, are we voting by hand? We can vote electronically for the consent agenda with the exception of 8.14. We can vote now. That passes. 8.14, can we vote electronically? All right. 8.14, all in favor of consent agenda item 8.14 donation, please vote now. You're voting electronic. You're voting electronically. All right, that passes. All right, board, we are adjourned.